Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spotted. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Man, my voice is cracking there. All right, well, it's been an interesting week. Pretty light on the economic releases, although we are going to be getting some of that today. Let's go in and take a look at the charts to see where we're at. Oh, we do have some rollovers today. Bitcoin. Yes, sir. All right, so ZN. Well, there was a little bit of selling after we left yesterday. Actually, it started to go into a really volatile period. Actually, oh, that reminds me. Let me turn this on. Okay. The robot actually took a ton of trades there, which was interesting to see. First time that it had done that, but it didn't turn out very well for it. But here, in the overnight and really coming into this just recently here, we're getting pretty strong buy impetus here. Here's the S&P 500 jumping up a little bit. Oil dropping. Ooh, oil dropping. I did not expect that. Okay, well, we got a couple of things. Let's go through other charts and I'll talk about what's going on. Silver. So gold came back significantly. Wow, that is such a scary looking move. Silver's just kind of trucking along though. Seems unaffected. Kappa moving along. Japanese yen coming back, and Bitcoin. Okay, so what happened yesterday? A couple things happened yesterday. First of all, on the oil front, there has been further hostilities in Gaza. And by the way, to turn up the lights here a little bit. There's been further hostilities in Gaza. Those things are ramping up. So I kind of thought maybe that would push oil up, but apparently not. The economic factors are I guess, greater. Besant said in like a private meeting, I guess, that was leaked, that he thinks that we're going to be backing off with the tariffs on China. Like 143% is too much. But that they're negotiating with China and so forth. Generally, there's been a much more positive tone on the whole trade war, that like we're gonna get a deal with China, and like I don't know how else to describe it. I guess really what I should do is I should go and find the exact headlines we're talking about. I don't know. Now today we have PMIs at 9:45 Eastern time. Those are the S&P PMIs. Those are usually not as significant. Let's see here. No, I have flash manufacturing PMI on here. What is with that? Maybe I need to refresh financial juice. Now I see it. Oh, no, I don't see it. No, it is still S&P PMIs. Got a bunch of Fed speakers today. Goolsbee, Moose, Salam, Walker. How come? It is Wednesday, right? Wednesday, April 23rd. It says Goolsbee Waller flash manufacturing PMI. That matters. Maybe it is S&P Flash. Well, in either event, it's PMIs that are coming up. And because it's like the only real economic news we get this week, and because it's about something, you know, that's kind of at question right now, of like, are we sinking into a recession and whatnot? I think that the market is going to pay more attention to that than normal. Okay. It is interesting that things cooling off has pushed the treasuries up, because when we've been getting these headlines, it's not always entirely clear how the treasuries are going to react. So this time, a clear up impetus, that's really good. That's really good for us. Okay. Now I don't know if I'm going to take any trades today, but I'm open to it. I'm open to it, and let's just test that really quick. Well, that's interesting. It's not not letting me place orders. Oh wait, is it because I don't even have the order column on here. That's funny. We'll just let that go over the 30-year a little bit. Yeah. Good there. I'm glad I tested that. I will disable it for now though. Something like that. Bro, trade so no, I was pushing the button. The problem was that I didn't have the order column on there first. I had to get the order column on there first. And then I had to click the button twice, and then it worked. But I was able to put liquidity up. I did test it. It was good. So we fixed that. It has been like 3 months, right? I don't think I've taken one since November, December. Uncertainty is up, uncertainty is down for ZN. No, I think that uncertainty has decreased. I think uncertainty has decreased. But maybe that's a little uncertain still. I don't know. The thing is that so Besant said yesterday that he thinks that there's going to be a little bit of de-escalation with China, and I think what he was referring to specifically was that they're saying that 143% is too high for the tariffs on China. Then yesterday, then in the evening, Donald Trump was talking, and he said that they were going to reduce the tariff on China. That it's not going to be zero, but it's not going to be 143%. So they're adjusting that. And maybe that might be like a prerequisite for negotiations with China or something like that, right? I kind of am getting the feeling, because they're talking about making a deal with China, but they haven't announced any negotiations or deal or whatever. But kind of makes me think that some back channel discussions have begun. So that was the first thing. And then the other thing was Donald Trump said, they're trying to work with the Federal Reserve. They're encouraging the Federal Reserve to reduce interest rates. He struck a very different tone with it last night, like that he's not going to remove Jerome Powell or anything like that, but that they are strongly encouraging the Federal Reserve to be easy, essentially. And that was enough of a tone change for the market to react to it, and the treasuries to push up a little bit. So, of course, we're going to get these PMIs. If even the services PMI is below 50, then I think that's gonna prompt even more buying in the treasuries. Yeah, Susie, you're correct. AT&T earnings right now. Were they good? Or this the earnings call? I guess we already got their earnings. Am I going to be shocked? How shocked am I going to be? I don't think you would be mentioning it if I wasn't going to be shocked, right? Okay, that's not bad. It's like
order canceled.
Algo's going short. No shock. Yeah, it's pretty good though. They're still doing great. Not as great as the treasuries, but pretty good. It's really curious to me that Financial Juice is listing the AT&T earnings call on my calendar, because I think that is the first time I have seen a morning earnings call listed on my calendar. They will list like Apple and Tesla, but those are always after the market, right? So that's different. I'm still trying to sort out here. I thought that the Flash PMIs was like a different company than the S&P. That there's like the S&P, the Flash, and market. But maybe the Flash PMI is just the S&P, because on Financial Juice it says US S&P, and on where did it go here? Oh, maybe I closed it. But on Forex Factory, it's saying Flash. So I don't know which ones it actually is. I find it kind of interesting the way that Donald Trump pulled back on the Federal Reserve rhetoric yesterday. So, like I made a video the day before or whatever, saying like, well, like this is about whether we cut in June or May. Like, it's kind of a little funny. I would like to think that he saw that and was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I am being a little bit too hard on them. Course, probably has nothing to do with me. But if Donald Trump does watch this stream, I'd really appreciate it if he name dropped me. That would be really helpful. You know what? I don't need to say anything. There's somebody in Discord complaining about the Israeli army dropping leaflets over Khan Yunis, urging residents to evacuate immediately. And there has been shots and operations inside of, let's see here, where was it? Al Ain refugee camp. They're like, this is the regime you support. And I'm just kind of watch that. And I'm like, do you really think after all of this that anybody else sees it that way? Like, I don't think there is a single pro-Israel, like somebody that comes down on the pro-Israel side of this, that is shocked at the Israeli army doing further operations and that they are in refugee camps, because that's where the terrorists go. And that's the way that the terrorists operate. And I think that everybody has kind of accepted that in order to exterminate the terrorist threat, that there's going to be a lot of collateral damage, and they're willing to accept that. They're willing to accept that in a way that they weren't willing to accept before. And so it's weird to me to see people trying to push that, oh, well, you should feel ashamed, or, you know, people are dying, guys, that they think that that's going to be an effective tactic. But I don't need to respond to it in Discord, because it will just spark more conversation about it. And the Discord probably needs to stay focused on these PMIs that are coming up. We probably need to stay focused on these PMIs that are coming up. But we got a whole hour for that. I'm interested to see here on this. So first of all, on our robot with the market order imbalance, I remember saying like that a 10-minute imbalance versus a 30-minute imbalance didn't really change things that much. And I was kind of like, oh, why would I do that? I would definitely do the 10-minute. Because when you look at the lines, they are so close to each other. I'm wondering if just the difference between 10 minutes and 30 minutes isn't enough. What if it was 10 minutes and 60 minutes? Would this maybe act as a better filter then? We could try that. But it seems to me that this higher time frame market order imbalance is not really going to be able to do what we want. Yeah. And, well, they're also close to the delta. Yeah, that's true. Because it is cumulative delta, but on a rolling basis in a way that keeps it between 0 and 100. Yeah. Now, so it's really useful for an algorithm. For a person, I guess it depends on the person. I actually find it really useful compared to cumulative delta, because I can see like, oh, it was 60% imbalance. Whereas when I'm looking at the actual cumulative delta, sometimes it's hard for me to say, yeah, was it actually significant or not? You know? Yeah, it's more of an oscillator. But I kind of think that I do need to have it like, what would I say? Like, it can't just be a certain percentage imbalance. It also needs to be a certain amount imbalance. So like maybe I could make a version of it that, or you could just use buy sell volume or something like that. But that basically says, okay, so the imbalance in the last 10 minutes is 60%, but the number of that imbalance is like the buys minus the sells in that window is only like 100 contracts. Then like there's not enough volume going on in the market for it to actually be trading, right? And maybe that could be a filter. But basically I'm thinking that when the market is fairly active it's a pretty good indication. And when the market is not active, it's absolutely terrible. And so I can just filter for that activity and that would improve it. This is kind of my thinking right now. I do think I could make some changes to the way that the indicator saves its data that would allow me to calculate it in different ways without having to, because like if I want to have that in balance and then I might have to put that on and it starts recording the data and then I can backtest it. But if I change this indicator to say, save the absolute numbers and then always calculate from those absolute numbers. That way you could come in and you could even change the period if you wanted to, and it would still work. The data would still be cached. Something like that. It seems to me that like when I filter it, when I say, would I want to take this trade or not take this trade? I've done pretty good, but I'm probably too strict because there's a lot of trades that were really, really good that I was like, nah. Kind of curious also, like that initial bout of action looked really positive, but now you come back and you look at the cumulative delta and it is definitely negative. So I'm not sure what to think of that. It's only like a 5K net change in cumulative delta. So there again is where it's like, well, maybe the net change isn't really enough that I shouldn't really be caring. So another thing I was hearing a lot about yesterday, and I think that it was kind of being prompted by JD Vance, but they were talking about India and that, India could be either really great or go really terribly. And they're trying, it seems like that they're trying to build a better relationship with India. So this morning, or no, it wasn't this morning, 19 hours ago, Donald Trump tweeted, deeply disturbed by news out of Kashmir. United States stands strong with India against terrorism. We pray for the souls of those who were lost and for the recovery of the injured. Prime Minister Modi and the incredible people of India have our full support and deepest sympathies. This is not something that I would normally expect him to tweet about. Man, these headphones, they're definitely, I might keep them for a few weeks, I think. I got another pair coming and I'll keep them until that pair comes. Because I got like 30 days to return it, right? They definitely touching my ears and kind of making my ears feel sore now. They don't sit on my head very well. But don't they look so nice? I don't think I've seen a pair of headphones that look as good. I think that if you're looking for like a streamer headset and you're not going to go with a gaming headset, something that's closed back and kind of more monitoring focused, I really think these are the best on the market before you get to like $1,000 headphones and stuff. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't fit my head. Belligerent, welcome back. So is that good for? I would say yes. You get, so the thing that's kind of different about these, because these are V-Modas. If you see them from the side, you see the hexagon pattern. So they're made by, their Rode is the brand, but they're made by V-Moda. It was like V-Moda and Roland collaborated together. And the thing that these ones have that the other V-Modas don't have yet is like the porting on the side. There's like this like kind of vent thing that, so different companies have taken this technology to different levels, and we don't really know like how significant it is. Like, is one's porting better than the other? But basically they've figured out how to like the right size for the opening to make the bass the best, essentially. So these headphones can go all the way down to 5 hertz. So you get low end. You get a lot more low end in these than others. And so especially when you're producing on the low end, this really helps. And the frequency curve is very clean. So I always like to use this track from the Chemical Brothers. Some places it's called Influence. Some places it's called Electronic Weapon Number 4 or something like that. But it has these. It was basically like kind of a technical track that they made that became so popular they turned it into a regular song, and it has these really big bass sweeps that go boo, right, and it goes really slow. And when it does that, you get a really good idea of like the frequency balance on your headphones, because if they're like coloring the bass in some way, then those frequencies, it will get louder and you can tell. But with these headphones, it's smooth all the way down to the very lowest frequencies. And all of the mids have really good presence and are very clear. So I think it's really good for producing. I think that really the target audience for these headphones is like your student producer, right? Like they're producing on a laptop. They're doing it all over the place. They're always on the go, and they need headphones that are also super portable and durable, but good at producing. Because you get these guys, you want to use like Barry Dynamic 1770s or something like that, and they're absolutely massive and clunky to carry around and everything like that. And now you've got something that I think in some respects is better, like sound wise, but it's in a more compact package and super durable. Like all of the materials are metal. The ear cups have like magnets in them, so when you want to replace the ear cups, you just pull them off instead of having to like tear everything apart. It has the headphone jack has a little notch in it so that it can't just get pulled out, and there is a jack on each side so you can pick which side you want the cord to go into, right? So it has all of the little creature comforts that would make this really good for a producer on the go. But the other thing is that they look really good. So I think if you are like a streamer and you're kind of tired of your headphones falling apart and you want something that looks good on camera, these are it. These are it. It just doesn't fit my head very well. So I'm going to try something else, and that something else might make me look ridiculous because they're going to be huge. But I think from what I've seen that I'm going to really like these other ones that are coming, but we'll see. Avanish says, Trump caved again? Yeah, I would say, well, I think that caved is probably like, if we're going to say like, what is the definition of caved? and we were going to be like particular about it, I don't think that you would say that he caved, but he definitely backed off, right? He backed off his Federal Reserve rhetoric, and he's backing off the tariffs on China. He's not completely backing them off, but apparently the tariffs aren't going to be 143%. Um, probably the way this is going to be portrayed in the end is, well, they back it off so that they can start negotiations with China, and then they're going to get some sort of a deal, and that deal might not move the needle, kind of like last time. I hope it does, but gotta be realistic. It might be really hard to get China to change, and he will present it as a victory, though. In the end, I like, if you're thinking about it politically, and you're like, see, Donald Trump's trade war didn't work. Everybody can see it. And now he's going to back off and everybody's going to see him for the coward that he is. Yada. Like, I don't think that that's how it's going to turn out politically, right? For us economically, it's very important to understand there's been a pretty big shift in sentiment over the past 12 hours or so because Donald Trump's tone has changed. But I don't think that it's going to be be seen that way politically. I guess the next key decision point there being the midterms, right? Although honestly, I still kind of think that everything for the midterms is kind of already baked in. Like, you could probably go through the polling and get a pretty accurate prediction for what the midterms will be right now. I must say, we still look like we're in a pretty steady sell here. If I am China and he backed off, why would I consider striking any deal? Well, I think that we kind of suspect that the reason he's backing off is because China, like, discussions with China have started. Yeah, it's a good lead off in Delta. You can see it over here. It's just kind of a slow and steady. See, it's kind of funny because when we were like right here, for instance, it wasn't, didn't look like that, right? But now that you have some more very clear R squared this way. Yeah, I do wonder, like, because they didn't yesterday, they didn't just say, oh, well, we're going to back off on the tariff on China. It's too high. They were saying they're looking forward to negotiating with China and things like that. Like, they were talking like that negotiations had started, even though they didn't explicitly say that it had, which kind of makes me think that, like, back channel discussions have started. But that is pure speculation. Wait, where are you pulling that quote from, Uzi? The factory can survive forever without a buyer for its goods. Having all the cards is a stupid stretch, drenched in bias. I agree. I don't think the trade war will hurt him politically, but the disaster known as P.S. Ketha will, he doesn't fire him. You know what? I honestly, I haven't been paying too much attention to that one. Like, I've definitely been seeing the headlines, but those aren't stories that I spend a lot of time reading. I don't think that he's gonna leave. I don't think that I think that one of the things that's going on here is that during the Biden administration in particular, there were certain political groups that started to take on this, like, targeted, we're going to get rid of someone. So they were very successful with it at the Federal Reserve, right? They selectively leaked things that the Federal Reserve members were doing that I bet that probably everybody on the Federal Reserve does. but they only leaked it about the conservative ones so that Biden would get more picks, and it worked. It totally worked. And then what happened was the conservatives saw that and were kind of like, oh wait, hold on, we shouldn't be letting people like resign, and we should just be ignoring them, right? So now when they've tried to do it during the Trump administration, and Hisketh is like, for some reason that position in the military is one that the left is particularly laser focused on, which is kind of interesting and maybe telling in and of itself. So they've just been going after him from the very beginning. And then when there was kind of like that security leak thing, they tried to use that as like they should get rid of him. And now I think the story has been that like he fired some people, and those people are criticizing him and they should get rid of him. But I think that with the context, I think that the conservatives are gonna hold tight. They're gonna hold tight. I don't think that they're gonna fire, nor just let him resign, or ask him. I guess in that situation you would ask them to resign, right? Kind of looking at this trade that the robot is in, and I'm kind of thinking that if the deltas flip around here, that it will get like +1 or even 0 ticks. It's probably what's going to happen there. It's kind of hard because, the whole thing was, okay, we knew that it was doing well in a period where we would expect it to do well. I didn't expect these last 2 weeks to be quite so tight. Like, it's really, really bad. But, I got to keep the algorithm running and everything so that we can see that. And that could help us, kind of make better filtering. To say, based on the activity level and everything that we're expecting, either go with the momentum or against it. But it's hard to watch. Like, I want to make changes now. Let's see here. Goldman Sachs says to brace for a bigger stock drawdown, wider credit spreads, and recession. Well,
order canceled.
Aren't the recession? Oh, okay, so it took +2. Isn't it the recession indicators saying like 50% chance of recession now? But, it all kind of depends. So if later today Donald Trump announces, negotiations with China have begun, and we all sound very positive about getting a deal done this time, then, that's probably the bottom, and we probably don't get a recession, right? So it depends on a lot of factors there, but people are kind of looking more positively. Yeah, China signals openness to U.S. trade talks, warns against threats. I'm sure it's a very difficult situation from China's side, because on one hand, they probably do really want to talk, and there's certainly a lot of room to talk, because China has really honestly been just like a bad actor in this space for a really, really long time. And at some point they will inevitably have to start playing by the rules, right? But you don't want it to be like, okay, they threaten you with tariffs and you give in, and now anytime that somebody sees something that they don't like, they just start threatening you, and like that's a bad situation too, right? So China has to have like some win too, to where they can say, so like the Trump administration backing off on the tariffs a little bit, and then they have negotiations. That could be how you get things started, right? I think that's what's happening. I hope that's what's happening. And aside from him CCing people on Signal chats, he has been failing miserably to stop the Houthis. Well, I don't think that not being able to stop the Houthis has anything to do with him, right? I mean, come on. Why didn't Biden stop the Houthis? Right? It's an intractable problem. Honestly, it's too cheap for the Houthis to do what they're doing, and too expensive to stop them. We have this thing with the Houthis is a big problem, guys. Not because of like that specific situation, but because I think it signals kind of a shift that particularly when it comes to protecting shipping lanes like that, it is too easy to disrupt the trade route and too difficult to protect it. And when I say too difficult, what I really mean is like too expensive, right? You can go and you can do all these attacks against the Houthis, and you can create all of these defenses and everything to shoot the missiles down and everything, but the missiles are dirt cheap for the Houthis, and everything to do that is super, super expensive on our side. So as more and more people and countries start to see that, I think it could be a real problem in the future. Now, the Trump administration did get more aggressive with it, but I'm really not sure how you do anything about that without like having troops on the ground. And even then, I'm not sure. Then you just have a situation like Gaza, you know? China, I have not seen anywhere a new deal with anybody. We should just start using sugar rockets too. Well, I mean, if you just start striking Houthi camps everywhere indiscriminately, right? Which is kind of what they started doing, right? But like actually shooting down the missiles and protecting your ships, super expensive. Shouldn't be doing anything to the Houthis. No, they're launching missiles at ships. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's really a good solution here, really. But I can tell you what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen is we're probably going to spend a lot of money on the military there, right? That's what always happens. World's largest GDP equals position, right? On the China thing, this is something that I've noticed through all of this that is very, very curious, is how effective the Chinese propaganda has been. The United States is not really trying through media and everything to make its case. They just let the media say what they're going to say. And meanwhile, China has like these concentrated the media operations, TikTok, etc., to try and convince people that like, oh, this is going to turn out so bad for the United States, etc., etc. Meanwhile, like I don't think people realize that like the Chinese economy is on the rocks. Like youth unemployment is so high that they stopped reporting the numbers. Their real estate market is still collapsed. And these were things that were happening like before the tariffs. And then the tariffs came in and it has just, created absolute mayhem over there with the factories. So I watched this video the other day from this drop shipper, And he was saying, he told his factory, hey, we don't know what's going on. We can't do another shipment. And the factory was like, no, we will do this thing and we'll do this thing. And basically, the factory was trying to say, let's commit fraud. Let's commit import fraud. Basically, you say that the goods are worth less, and then they paid the tariff on it. And anyways, and it was like this whole big long thing of the different ways that people were trying to commit tariff fraud, because the people that own the factories and everything are absolutely screwed if this goes on, right? So the idea that, like, the United States is reeling and China has basically been unaffected and continues to be in a strong negotiating position, etc., is just not true. China is reeling. I think that China really wants to make a deal of some sort, or at least come to the table, but they're afraid of the way that they do it would open them up to further tactics like that in the future, right? So, but they are again signaling willingness. I kind of get the feeling that like maybe back channel discussions have started or something. Yeah, the news still shows pretty parts of China. They are an amazing country, so huge, so much going on, so great. We should be so jealous because that was all totally, yeah. Maybe your house. That was funny, guys. Yeah, the fact that 85% of the goods in anyone's house comes from China is why China doesn't hold all the cards, you moron. No, I think that this kind of argument is really a fascinating one to watch, though, because I don't think I've ever seen something in politics and certainly not in economics where I can see different groups see it so differently, and part of it is that I don't think that we have enough historical precedent, nor has anybody really done, like, this is something that I think you could figure out with agent-based modeling to kind of say who really does have the advantage in that situation, right? But then on top of that, there's propaganda to try and convince us, right? If you're buying a lot of stuff from China and you stop buying that stuff from China, that is going to hurt China. Does that give you a stronger hand in a trade war negotiation? I'm not entirely sure, because you're still hurting yourself too, right? Like the U.S. is going to go into recession if things stay the way that they are. Like the current trajectory, well, not the trajectory, but if we don't get deals and we can keep the super high tariffs on, it's probably going to drive us into a recession. So I think that China's probably hurting more right now, but how that works out in the negotiations and everything is kind of unclear. Haven't been able to model that. Well, but sorry, I thought Uzi was responding to me. You do have to understand, though, Uzi, that like U.S. imports are like 15% of China GDP or something like that. So like that is enough to put China into a recession and everything, but it is still only a small fraction of their overall trade, right? They presumably could expand trade with other partners and just cut the US out completely and move on. It would hurt. It would hurt for a long time, but after enough time they would recover. That's part of why part of Trump's negotiations are kind of like telling other countries, like, you have to hold China's feet to the fire and hold them to the hold them accountable. If everybody did that, then China has a really big problem, right? Most stuff has already been moving to Vietnam for years. That's true. That's true, though. Like, China is not necessarily the low-cost place anymore. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? That, like, China is becoming the high-skill manufacturing place now. So we all complain about Chinesium and Chinese goods being trash and stuff, right? But that stuff is moving elsewhere, and the stuff that's staying in China are the things because where it's like, well, China's the only place that you can make this stuff. And it also kind of makes you wonder where China is going in the long run, because, you know, there's this whole narrative that, like, China's going to take over the world and all of that sort of thing. And that doesn't ring very true to me. I see a lot of challenges for China, and I think that is very, very likely that because of their population problems and things like that, that we're probably close to peak Chinese power, and that, again, and I know this sounds crazy, but that India starts to become more important instead. Because India does not have those same problems. They're going to continue to grow in population, and they have a more workable political situation. So if India makes the right moves, India could replace China as the second largest economy, essentially. Or, you know, like be a you know, superpower in a multipolar world, whatever. Why is it, Paul, when you're talking about India, that you always talk about, let's see here, get the literal shit out of their homes and stop using their full bodies for anything food related? That I'm not. Do we have evidence that that's what's holding India back? I don't really think that that's it. I think that the things holding India back right now are purely politically related. Can you imagine 85% of household goods with price hikes? So you know what I thought was funny was Donald Trump backing off on tariffs on electronic goods, saying that there will be a different tariff on electronic goods, right? I was like, oh, so really these tariffs are just meant to kill Xi'an, right? Like, is that what it is? That's kind of the way that it's been going. It won't be 85% of household goods. It will be all your clothes, basically. Because I don't think that there's very many places at all that still produce clothes in the United States. I think you're trying too hard, Aminash. You're coming in, he's trying to troll people, trying to say, oh, well, you seem like you're upset It's kind of like my trolling is being successful. But I really don't think that it is going that way. Do you think this move has been pretty good upside here? It's so interesting. We have not completely recovered the cumulative delta, but we made new highs. Very strong new highs. So that is very interesting to me. It kind of makes me feel like I missed out on it. There could have been $10 in that. But you know, I don't have anything to say. My plan is let's look at the PMIs and then see what the flows could be from there. But maybe this move is people kind of preparing for the PMIs. We'll see. I'm not going to read that comment, but I thought that was funny. I had kind of thought that he had gone away, but because like I think that somebody put him in timeout last time, right? I didn't realize that they had just been put in timeout. So, China could literally bring out weapon manufacturing to all, but they already stopped that stuff, didn't they? Okay, so here's another thing that is really that I'm kind of like, this doesn't make any sense. Is it that China already put export controls on rare earth minerals and made all sorts of other retaliatory moves? And like, where is all of the discussion about the quote unquote pain from that and so forth? I guess it hasn't been long enough. Like is it going to be like, okay, you wait 6 months or a year, and then when you can't get your iPhone because they don't have the rare earth minerals for the neodymium magnets and everything, and then you can't have electric cars, and then you'll really be feeling it. But so far, we're still kind of in like tariffs haven't hit mode. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, rare earth element resources, their whole thing is they are building a test factory a demonstration plant to show new methods of processing rare earth minerals that is both more efficient and less damaging to the environment and would allow us to process rare earth minerals in the United States. And they made a demo plant, and it sounds like everything is going really well with it, and that in the future we will be processing rare earth minerals in the United States. But for now, export controls on rare earth minerals are a big deal, I think. Which is why I'm kind of like, why aren't I not hearing about that? Yeah, whatever. And dumping our bonds. Well, I really so what do you guys think about this now? Let's make a poll about this one. Start a poll. Who was dumping bonds? And we're going to say China, Japan, basis traders, someone else. Start poll. Because on Reddit, everybody still seems to think that China was dumping bonds and caused the administration to back off and yada yada yada. But we don't really have a whole lot of evidence, and the evidence that we do have, which is all very circumstantial, suggests that it's just basis traders. So now that we're like a week or so removed from all of that action, what do we think? Who do we think it was? That's because left biased idiots think China is the largest. Well, not anymore. They were at one time. JP Morgan will buy 0.7 trillion of. Wait, really? Is that a headline? Because that's a lot. That's a lot. Well, yeah, okay, sure. The Fed is the largest holder of US debt. That's true. But the largest foreign holder of US debt is Japan. One of the things I remember seeing a lot of when that was all going on that I kind of laughed at was people saying, okay, yeah, like interest rates will continue to rise until, China sells it all in a few days or whatever. And I'm like, no, it would take them months. It would take them months to sell all of their bonds. Now, of note was that yesterday we had a 2-year auction and the foreign bid was not very strong. So that is concerning. It is very much the case that the current dynamics have led to the flows that kind of move around. There is money that they go to where their yield is going to be the best and all of those sorts of things. And so you get these flows where money's coming from Europe over here. That's kind of what's been going on for the last few years. And that flow is switching now. And as a result, the bid for our bonds at auction is not as high. It absolutely is. And it's a real concern, especially since we have a lot of new debt to issue this year. Yeah, dumping bonds like just pissing supply into a market wouldn't. I think you mean to say that would be very disadvantageous to them. Yes, China would lose a lot of money on it if they did that. It would lose a lot of money on it. Now, one thing I could say though is that I don't think that it takes very much for them to spike yields up and cause a ruckus. They don't have to sell all of it. They just have to do their regular operations of selling for a few days for the market to get the point, right? This is still going. This is kind of interesting because the treasuries are still moving up. I'm not really seeing like the cumulative delta is tilted to the upside, but it's still basically like where it was an hour ago. So pretty strong move up on not a whole lot. And so that would make me think, well, maybe it's a correlation or something like that. But no, I'm not seeing that. Not really seeing that at all. The dollar hasn't been doing anything too interesting. S&P 500 hasn't really started up yet either. I suppose one thing that I should say is that even though the resting liquidity is good, doesn't necessarily mean that the latent liquidity is good, and we do appear to be able to move a little bit further than we normally would on the same amount of volume, right? Because that latent liquidity is not there. Okay, so the market order imbalances on the open for the S&P 500 all look very positive. Okay, let's see here. 40% of you think China. 30% of you think Japan. Only one of you thinks that it's basis traders. And one of you thinks someone else. Okay. Well, let's leave the poll going. But I think that's very curious. We will eventually know, but we're not going to get that data until like June. So that's a long time to be asking. Maybe I'm wondering, maybe at the next Federal Reserve meeting, they'll ask Jerome Powell about it and maybe he'll say something. Because you know, like if it was Japan, I think Jay Powell would know. Like doesn't the way Japan does that stuff is through the New York Fed? Right. I put Uzi selling TLT. Dude, so there's this guy in Discord. He seems young to me. He seems like really young, doesn't seem to have a complete understanding of financial markets, but keeps bringing up these super esoteric things as like the bond market is like on the precipice of a unprecedented collapse. Is just like so bonkers, and everybody in Discord keeps telling him like that's not very likely to happen, right? Like you know that the whole market is positioned on that the Federal Reserve is going to cut next meeting, right? But he is just absolutely convinced that the bond market is going to collapse here and everything, and he's buying puts on TLT. Sean Call says, I think a lot of things got unwound in London. Okay, so you would be in the someone else camp. Or no, maybe you would be basis traders, because I think that's a lot of things got unwound. That would probably be basis traders, right? Yeah, you were basis. Okay. Because you know, like, okay, I have to strike a balance between presenting my own opinion and allowing you guys to think for yourselves, right? Because if I'm just like browbeating everybody into accepting my opinion, then this stream doesn't really work, right? There's not really any value. It's in the interaction and us kind of discussing things that kind of allows us to suss out what's going on in the market, right? So I tried to not really give my opinion, but I did basically say like I think it's basis traders, right? So when I made the poll, I was like, oh, I hope that not that everybody just, I hope that it's not that everybody just votes what I just said, and it wasn't. Only one person said basis traders. Well, a few more now, but that's really curious to me. That's really curious to me. It's getting a little bit more equal as more people vote, so we'll see. It might change. Might change. Usually those first dozen votes kind of hold though. Headful holds 4 trillion. tell you what, this bull run in the treasuries has been awfully strong, and our algorithm has been holding it the whole way. In fact, like, look at where it got in right there. You see it? Like, it couldn't have gotten a better spot. Couldn't have gotten a better spot. Yeah, lest ye not forget the entirety of Social Security's U.S. Treasury holdings. Yeah, so the government owes itself. Let's see here. Sean says it's more of how over there they can re-roll and re-roll into other assets. In a short explanation, they can do things we can't and need to free up to cover. Yeah. Well, you know, because if it was just a straight basis trade, when I say it's basis traders, that's like way oversimplifying it, isn't it? Because a traditional basis trade would be you hold the bonds and you sell the treasuries. So if you were unwinding that position, wouldn't that cause buying treasuries, not selling treasuries, right? So it's a little bit more complicated than just a simple basis trade, one where they are buying futures to hedge it, and it causes selling. So yes, I don't completely understand it, but I think you're on the right track there, Sean. But just because it makes sense doesn't necessarily mean that it was actually the basis traders, right? Like, what evidence do we have that it was one or the other? Well, one thing is that there are some other instruments, especially like bills and things like that, that were also moving when this was happening, and moving in a way that suggested that it was those kind of like basis trades and so forth, and not China or Japan.
Order canceled.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, so my algo still made a good profit on that, but man, that came down hard. So the headline is
Order submitted.
Let's see if I can get here. Donald Trump, I'm pursuing the law firm of Perkins Coie. It's not hitting Twitter yet, but basically Wall Street Journal story, reiterating everything that we said at the beginning. So this could like totally reverse. Okay, so it just took the full stop on the second part of that. That's funny. Yes, it did. But it made so much on that first trade that it's still good. And it's making money on... Did it flip around? Yes, it's making money on this flip too. Ooh. I'm tempted to get involved in this, but I'm not sure that this is the one for me to mess with, right? Okay. Here Financial Juice is posting it now. White House considers slashing China tariffs to de-escalate trade war, sources say, Wall Street Journal. That caused initial selling in the treasuries. I kind of thought that maybe that's why the treasuries were buying this morning. So after that initial selling, they came back super hard and bought it back, right? So and you can see pretty clear like positive reaction in the equities, right? So we continue to get this thing where like good headlines on tariffs is explicitly good for the S&P 500, but the treasuries aren't 100% sure if that leads to higher or lower treasuries. And isn't that funny? I kind of am of the opinion that at least in the short term, it should be slightly positive for the treasuries, because even though we don't really know who was selling and all of that, there is a perception that it was China, and that the trade war means higher interest rates. So if the trade war is going to de-escalate, then that should mean lower interest rates. That should mean that it should be even easier for the Federal Reserve to continue to cut rates. We shouldn't be as concerned about inflation. So I think it's a buy, but okay, so I'm getting another report that Donald Trump decided to not fire Jerome Powell after his advisors Lutnick and Bessent advised him not to. Okay. I tell you what, you should look at your cost basis. Quite a cool thing. They went, well, I don't know why. Oh yeah, I see now. Yeah. Like clockwork every time, isn't it? Whenever we're in this situation, it does it. It's so precise. Like, okay, so we're up here, we're pushing the top line. A big disruptive headline comes through. They start selling. How far are they going to go? Why did they stop here and not here? I'll tell you why. Because in this situation, market makers are just dumping their inventory. Comes down to the inventory line, bounces. Every freaking time. Makes a good target. Doesn't really tell you like that a move is going to happen or when it's going to happen. But when you do get a move, it gives you a really good idea of where the move is going to go to. So much so that I'm kind of like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, am I not presenting it right? Am I not doing something? Like, I feel like it should be more popular than it is. I don't think Powell will cut. He is politically motivated. Okay. So I'm not going to say that that's a crazy opinion. But my question to you off of that would be, how do you explain the market positioning that suggests that the Federal Reserve will cut in June? Okay, so now I'm seeing that the US is eyeing 100% China levy for items strategic to US interests, and they are eyeing 35% for items not deemed important to national security. The thing that this one, you know what? I really won't take a trade on this. Well, look at the spread now. Look at the spread in the micro treasuries. I think the book should be thinning out for the PMIs, right? Basically, the market just moved on a news headline that we got last night. Like, isn't that funny? But does anybody see it differently? I think that the market just moved on a headline that we basically got last night. Okay, so services PMI 51.4 versus 52.6. So lower, but not below 50. And the manufacturing was higher than expected, 50.7 versus 49. So those are a little bit mixed. Not as easy as I was hoping they would be, though. So even if we hadn't have had the crazy, I don't think that I would have a trade here. I definitely, if I had balls, definitely could have, you know, gone for the reversal here. Didn't think Trump could outright fire. He can't. He thinks that he can, though. I think he's being honest when he says, you know, yeah, they say they can't, but I think that I can. He probably does think that he can. I don't think that he realizes how different the position of the Federal Reserve is to every other position that they appoint people to. So he could try, and it would be like absolute mayhem for months. But the courts would ultimately side with it. He can't be fired.
Order submitted.
Hell is the only person left that's competent enough to keep the clown show in check. I don't know, I guess. But like, again, they're gonna cut in June. Like, the whole thing is silly. Everybody getting so uppity about Donald Trump's comments on the Federal Reserve and everything is just comical to me, because the Federal Reserve is going to cut in June, guys. So they're all just throwing this big firestorm over whether we cut in June or whether we cut in May. Does he even realize that that's what he's arguing about? Because when you put it in that perspective, then all of a sudden it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of ridiculous, isn't it? I find it hilarious that Trump is complaining of trade deals that he negotiated in his first term. It's true. Well, I mean, I thought it was particularly interesting that he complained about like the Canadian and Mexico one, right? Because I don't think that he necessarily got what he wanted in his first term from it and everything, but he definitely at the time like took a victory lap on it and everything. So let's see here. Did that trade stop out? No. Well, that's interesting. I can't completely. Oh, wow. So it took a short there, then it flipped around there, and now it's going short here again. I'm just so impressed at how well it works when the market starts to get crazy like this.
Order canceled.
Okay. Oh, this is... Now it's short. Oh, so the before was not a short? Oh, you're right. Okay. Here it did a buy and it immediately flipped back around. I gotcha. Trump isn't a smart guy. I think that he doesn't know as much about the Federal Reserve as we do. Probably. Seems to me that he thinks that it's just like every other government position. Oh, you told me that I can't fire Comey. You told me that I can't fire this guy. You told me that I think I can. No, Donnie, listen. Federal Reserve is different. Didn't Trump nominate Powell? Yeah, but like, let's be honest though. Powell has had imperfect performance. I'm not going to say like I think he's a particularly bad Federal Reserve chairman, because it seems to me that every Federal Reserve makes mistakes of this nature. But he has made, I would say, 3 particularly egregious policy mistakes. Made one in 2018 when they raised rates in December, and that led to like a 1 month like just absolute chaos in the markets before they backed off the next Federal Reserve meeting and reversed it. Then he made a policy mistake during COVID, pretty egregious one, where they kept interest rates low for too long. And what's the third one? Is the third one here not cutting quickly enough? No, I think that there was another third one, but I don't remember. But in Donald Trump's mind, that this is a third policy mistake. In Trump's book, yeah, that's enough to fire. It's just that the Federal Reserve is specifically set up so that nobody in the government can fire him. Like, it's written into the law. They are independent. And he is allowed to serve out the rest of his term. Which is until 2026. That's the other thing, is like, why fire him and create all of this chaos and everything? Just wait a year. It's going to change anyways. The fact that the Fed is not competent, well, but it's all relative though, right? Do you see? The Federal Reserve is about as competent as I think you could expect given the circumstances, because what they're doing is something kind of hard. But we expect perfection. You're never going to get perfection. Wow, this is really getting wild. The robot was doing really, really well at one point, but now with those last few trades and losing a few ticks here and there, it's negative now. I think that with the right, you working limit orders in there the right way, it would be okay, but yeah, I did not see another news drop, but I also saw there that all of a sudden the S&P 500 started to act really wild again. So real quick, because I got to get going, but the point that I want to make on the Federal Reserve is that the problem is not the existence of the Federal Reserve itself, nor is the problem who is leading the Federal Reserve. The problem that we have with interest rate policy on this planet is that our technology is not up to snuff yet. Our ability to predict and forecast financial conditions in order to make the correct adjustments to interest rates is just not strong enough. I think that agent-based modeling is something that can help us close that gap a lot. But even with as imperfect as the Federal Reserve is, it is still incredibly effective at reducing volatility and keeping markets functioning. So I just very strongly disagree with this idea that the Federal Reserve needs to go away. Really, you have to be able to modify the money supply based on the current conditions. And it's better to do a crappy job at it than to just let the market do it. Just let the interest rates float. Okay. So the that does mean that the Federal Reserve makes mistakes and will probably continue to make mistakes. Yes, sir. I kind of wonder here, on these trades, by the way, what if instead of having the stops and targets, I had a trailing stop? I think that at least in those situations, it probably would have performed better. Well, I'm a little disappointed because I did kind of think that I was going to take a trade today, but I'm glad that I didn't, because I probably would have taken a big hit on that. Well, I don't know. No, yeah, I probably would have stopped out on that. I probably would have been short rates and gotten stopped out. There is nothing hard about not bailing out your friends. They gamble and lose people's. Yeah, no, they always. But that's not something specific to the Federal Reserve, man. That's something that's been happening since the beginning of financial markets. Here again, I think that one of the problems is we as humans, we kind of we want to think philosophically, right? Like, this is what truth is. This is the way that the world is. And then everything should fit into these nice, clean boxes based off of that, right? If we are using the correct economic principles, then nothing bad should ever happen. And ergo, you should never have to intervene in the free market or whatever the deal is, right? The truth is that while financial markets are the best tool that we have to help us balance the competing supply and demand, it is a very imperfect instrument that is prone to endogenous shocks, which is to say that just trading in and of itself can cause the whole system to just spontaneously combust. And that sometimes you'll have to come in and rescue the market and get it back to a stable position. And there's not really any way around that if you're using a financial market. It will always happen. And so you have to have somebody step in and do it. And this last time it was the Federal Reserve. Did Bernanke go to Citadel? Anyways, I still, this whole thing, I find it so interesting that the headline is the Wall Street Journal story saying that they're going to reduce tariffs on China and that they decided not to fire Jerome Powell. And that was basically what Donald Trump said last night. So this is a non-headline headline, but all of the robots reacted to it, and quite strongly. And in fact, this was one of the, outside of the really, really big craziness when this all started, right? One of the biggest market moving headlines that we've seen in the past year on nothing. How's that for efficient markets? Huh? Well, one last thing to check. Our cost basis. Well, okay, so they came down toward a line and bounced. Then they did sell. It looks like that they are now staying below it. So I might see it, balance out between these two lines. We'll see what happens. But that line was awfully valuable today, wasn't it? So if you have an NinjaTrader, I would recommend you go download the indicator at speculatorsstuff.com. But I will see you guys. It's time for me to go. It sucks. I want to stay. It's time for me to go. I will see you guys. And I could keep it going, but I don't know. Let's try this for a week. We'll stop again and see how we feel about it. Or if we want to go back to the timer. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. But we're going to stop it. So I will see you guys tomorrow.